Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please drop us up, drop a like, and let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Also, please consider supporting our podcast via the link below. It really helps us out. Peter, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
Dude, doing so well. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So, have you guys come up with a name for your bass gang fans yet?
Uh, Bass Gangsters is the only one that's been thrown around.
All right, so the bass gangsters will have a good time with this one.
Yeah,
So, okay, so for those listening who don't know who you are, you want to do a super quick intro and then we can jump into all the stuff that you've been up to?
sure. So primarily, I am a professional opera singer, but I also run a successful YouTube channel doing mostly musical analysis type videos along with interviews with singers and voice actors. And I'm also a member of the Bass Gang, currently a group of 4 bass singers based from all around the world. We collaborated virtually for 2.5 years and then finally got to meet up, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Well, that's the first thing. So I think that's the biggest thing that you guys had going on. You guys went to Czech Republic. 3 of the 4 of you obviously were able to be there. It sucks that Marwan wasn't able to make it. But how was that? How was meeting them for the first time in person? How was the trip? How was the travel? How was the collaboration? How was it?
No question, one of my favorite things I've ever gotten to do. It was cool because we already felt close, having been collaborating for so long online, and we have basically like weekly Zoom meetings, and so we already felt like close friends. But of course, being there in person really solidified the friendship and kind of just proved that we were like kind of meant to be working together. Like we're really truly are good friends, and like had a great time. Traveling there, overnight flight from DC, and then actually Bobby and I met in the airport in Portugal. And so we kind of flew into Prague together. I was on my laptop and I looked up and he was like right there, and I was like, oh shit, it's Bobby. It's like this famous bass singer who I've been like friends with for a few years now. The whole trip was a dream. I mean, we were staying in this awesome Airbnb. We had our whole video schedule mapped out because we had our whole video production team planning for the last 6 months, like renting locations and getting extras and securing costumes and props and all the things that we were going to use for these videos, which I actually, before I go on, when will this episode come out? Because then I'll know how much I can talk about the
Monday.
project.
Well, we can when would be a good date for you to talk about the project? Because I've got a few coming up that I can mix and match the dates. So it's supposed to be this coming Monday, but I can push it to the following one.
Honestly, I'm probably being too careful. I'll just speak freely about it, and then we can decide when to release the episode. So the whole video production team that had been working around the clock the last few months to get everything ready. We, of course, have all this crowdfunded money that we've put into this project. And so the trip it was very much like both business and pleasure because we were there and we took all the video shoots very seriously and all the planning. We were doing other little recording projects around that, but we were also just like hanging out and having fun the whole time. And the video shoots, while like fully professional, were also so much fun. Like a highlight of my life and my musical career was just being on set with the guys with the big 6K cameras and the film crew and all this stuff, and the locations were absolutely amazing. Like we got to shoot we went to this sand mine, like this huge sand mine, to shoot A Friend Like Me. We got to use a nationally protected cave, this huge, incredible cave to shoot Be Prepared. All these are Disney songs. For Gaston, we got to use this like super old traditional Czech tavern, which was so cool. And then, of course, for Arabian Nights, because Marwan wasn't there, we hired a whole film crew for him to shoot in Egypt in the Sahara Desert, because he's from Egypt. So we have Arabian Nights sung by him in the Sahara Desert, which is nuts. And then we shot our own parts for that at this kind of Egyptian looking structure that's like a tourist attraction about an hour north of Brno. Incredible experience through and through. Love the guys. The projects are going to be amazing. The coolest and best thing we've ever done so far, for sure. And we're hoping they do. We're hoping they perform well.
I would imagine so. But one of the things that I was super interested in to ask you was, as you started, and I think we had probably talked about this the last time that we talked, but right, so obviously you did your cover of Enemies by Imagine Dragons, and that to date was your biggest project thus far, either solo or with the group. And now it seems like the bar is going to continue to raise. How have you guys dealt with that? If both from a right, the stakes are higher now in a little bit, right? There's more money involved. Obviously, the people that support you guys are willing to help you out, and the GoFundMe's and the Patreons and everything else. But the stakes are higher. The planning, there's more planning that goes into it. There's more people involved, more moving parts, more expensive cameras, more like all of the above. How have you guys kind of dealt with that, thought about that, or has it just been kind of natural that this is the next step? Because I know some people have their like, I have my little niche with my little webcam camera and whatever, and I probably will never upgrade. So, but like some people have their niche, and then if they go up, then it becomes weird and it becomes not the same as what it was, and the feel changes and it feels more commercialized instead of the reason why everybody liked you guys, not you guys, but people in the first place. Have you guys thought about that? And well, all of
Yeah.
that, I guess. There's a lot
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there, but
Yeah, no, great question. I was thinking about this during the trip because to go from collaborating only virtually for a couple of years to putting on these huge professional level in person, like full production, full costume projects, like we really went for it. Like this would be now, I'm very proud of the projects we've done before. I think we've done amazing work with green screen from all over the world.
yeah.
Like truly remarkable. Love all the music we've done. All the videos are great. But to go from that to this was a huge jump as far as money and value and time and effort and everything. So I kept thinking about that during the trip. I was like, we really just shot for the moon on this project. And there were so many things that could have gone horribly wrong. One of them did, right? Marwan not being there. That was pretty horribly wrong. We were pretty
Yeah.
take a week before the trip. We had to really figure everything out. Um, but just yeah, going from green screen to shooting these like fully professional, 6K videos with full crew was a huge jump. So I wouldn't say it felt natural, but it is kind of the attitude we have as a group where we're just kind of like, let's go for it. Let's make big, amazing, cool projects. Let's leave our mark. And I think we don't have a huge following yet, but the people that have found us are like ravenously interested in what we're doing. They're just like everything. That's how we could raise all the money to do this enormous trip, is because of a relatively small group of people who's like, yes, shut up and take my money because we love you guys, which is amazing. And we're hoping just that just spreads, like that really excited group just gets bigger. And I think it will after this project. Another thing that we're kind of playing around with is doing, which technically we started on our second EP, is not doing purely a cappella music, which is so niche. And it's something I've kind of been pushing for a while, is if we can just branch out a little bit and still do like very heavily multi-layer vocal tracking, but also have some instruments, that just broadens our audience big time without taking away the core of the group, which is, bass singing, like singing super low, awesome stuff. So those are things we're playing with, and that you will hear in this next EP, two of the tracks are not fully a cappella. So Arabian Nights and Be Prepared both have some instruments, especially like drums, and there's some other cool like Egyptian sounding instruments for Arabian Nights. Gaston, my piece that I did, is fully a cappella, and Bobby's piece, Friend Like Me, is also fully a cappella, but it's kind of like half and half. So we're kind of still in the a cappella world, but we're also branching out a little bit. And that's also an evolution of the group we've talked about. So both the specific kind of music we're doing is evolving, and of course, like you just mentioned, the projects that we're doing are also evolving. and getting bigger and cooler. And I'm trying to remember what else was in that question. I
No,
think
no, no.
that was
Yeah,
most of it, right?
it was most of it for sure. I guess the other piece of it is with the extra and added planning comes longer timelines for releases and things like that. I know that you also released your Stairwell um, album recently. So I don't really know if the others are doing. I'm pretty sure the others are doing individual stuff as well. Um, but how has that scheduling worked for you in terms of I was releasing XYZ number of things per year. Now the timing is going to be longer because we've got more to coordinate and more money to fundraise, right? It just takes more time. So how are you worried about that? Is that something that's concerning to you, or are you going on other plans and things to
Hmm.
because obviously you're rehearsing as well and you're doing your opera stuff too. So your schedule I'm sure is swamped, which is why we're talking at 6 in the morning where you are. So
Exactly. Yeah. It's probably the earliest interview ever done, aside from like maybe something on the radio. Yeah, I'm not concerned. And as far as individual projects, the stairwell covers for me was so easy. Because I had already recorded all of them in that stairwell, and they had just done so well on Instagram and TikTok when I was using TikTok. And there have been so many requests for me to put them on streaming services. I said, what the hell? So I just snagged all the videos, stripped the audio from them, mastered them. By mastering, I really just bumped the volume on them so they would be like reasonable for a streaming service. Had some AI make some cover art and then put it out there. So that was like a very easy individual project for me. My priorities kind of go opera first. That's the most time consuming thing I do. And it is technically my day job. So like today's opera rehearsal from like 10 to 5. And it'll be that way for the next probably 6 weeks, essentially, till this production is done. And then we get a little break and then it'll be kind of the same thing. So that takes the most time. But the bass gang has quickly become a higher priority, especially given the scale, given what I think our potential is as a group. And so I am perfectly happy to take time from other projects of mine and funnel them towards bass gang because I think it's what I'm most excited about, I would say. Bobby still does some of his own stuff, especially like short form stuff on TikTok because his TikTok's so big. And some other collaborative kind of things. Tommy once in a while does a solo project now. I think a little bit less than he used to. And Marwan is a full-time student in Egypt, so he is still doing some projects, but I think again more of the time is being funneled towards bass gang. So for me, opera's first. My whole YouTube presence is second with the bass gang. That's all very highly prioritized. And then next comes my like individual projects that I can do when I can. So I have a few coming out. Like my friend George and I actually started recording for this last night, are doing a short EP of Johnny Cash covers.
ooh.
I love Johnny Cash, great bass voice. George is a full-time professional guitar player in Nashville. He's absolutely unbelievable on guitar. So we're just doing these acoustic and voice covers, very short and simple, very raw. But like we're doing that. So that's another individual project I'm doing. And I have one more individual project that's probably going to come out in early winter with my brother. He's also a bass singer. Doesn't do it for a living or anything, but also a bass singer. George will also probably play guitar on that, and I might hire some of the like popular violinists, some other instrumentalists in like the TikTok sphere to join for that project. But that's all I have for individual projects.
Yeah.
Just that short EP of cash covers, which won't take much time, and then this other one, and the rest of it is opera bass gang. Obviously I'm doing a lot for the YouTube channel every week.
Yeah. You mentioned the violinist and the TikTok thing. That's something I think Lindsey Sterling was like the first one to kind of or one of the first ones anyways, but that's been a super interesting um development, I guess, in music. All these niches of different sort of whether it's a cappella guys or rock guys, or you guys did the cover with Jonathan Young, and then like Peyton Parrish and all those guys have started off their own niche, and they're all super good. And then you've got obviously the a cappella world, or pentatonic sits a little bit on their own, but you've got like
Mm.
voice play and you guys and
Oh, oh,
Lauren Paley,
yeah.
and a bunch of them, and like these weird little niches, or not weird, but these little niches have popped up only in the YouTube space, and they haven't really transferred over to, I'll call mainstream. But also, I don't listen to the radio, so I wouldn't really know. But
Yeah.
how have you guys? Because I've seen obviously with Jonathan Young and a few of the other people that you guys have done covers with. How has that been to kind of go between the different spaces and meet the different people and the collaborations and different things like that?
That is one of the coolest things about this whole project. And now that the bass gang plus the four of us with all our connections, we can have like some of these amazing, really like top tier creators in this space, like a Lauren Paley. Like she's got like 10 million followers on TikTok. And like I could reach out to her at any time about a project. Just like, hey Lauren, we're doing this thing. You want to join? She'd probably be like, yeah, let's do it. Which is crazy. No, yeah, no one from this space is on the radio, as far as I know. It's not that kind of celebrity. Mostly because the music is not really like radio music, I
No,
would
not at
say.
all.
Like there are I mean, these people are very well known. If you have a million followers on any platform, that's a ton of people who are following you. So there are probably some people who, if they were doing pop, maybe could get on some radio spots somewhere. I'm not talking like Olivia Rodrigo or like a Billie Eilish. No one's nearly that famous in this space. But Melinda, for example, who I'm sure you know is a friend. She came on my show a few weeks ago. She's going on like a full national tour
Oh,
and
really?
like and
That's
like
cool.
and like selling out little venues. She's not selling out arenas, but she's selling out venues. And she started, totally in this virtual space. So that's one person who is kind of transcending the short form content and moving into, like a real kind of more of a real thing.
Yeah, it's cool that people are doing that because I've seen the same thing in comedy, guys that are doing short form stuff and then they're able to sell out where they go, and it doesn't have. And the thing is, at least my perception of it is, it's almost the connection with the people that follow you and support your work is almost better if you're not selling out arenas, right? Like people would prefer a more genuine, like intimate, I guess is the right word, connection, where maybe you're selling out a theater or some sort of, not even a theater like type size venue. um it's super interesting the way that media and creation and music like all the arts, I guess, are changing in that way. It's super cool to watch happen. And then also for me, kind of on the periphery of it, but also it's really great that I get to talk to you and some of these other people, like Jennifer Glatzofer and like all these people. It's been super cool to just hear the stories and see the progress and see, like, you guys, I think when we first talked was more like a year and a half ago, and to see
Man,
where you guys went from there to now, you guys are flying to Czech Republic to do these professional level things. It's been super cool to watch, like just to follow, and then to be able to come ask you questions about it and stuff. Has been amazing. And for, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? It's really cool
yeah,
to
yeah.
watch the transformation of the space.
It's really cool too how a lot of these projects start as people doing like that duet feature on TikTok, or
Hmm.
like doing now all of them are the duets now are much more produced. It's like you'll take the video, you'll edit your video in, you'll edit the audio, you'll put it back up as if it looks like a duet. That's kind of like becoming the standard. But usually so many of these collaborations start out as that. Like there are a few I know of that are coming up. I'm not a part of them, but just like people like Bobby or other people like this who did a little project like that on TikTok or Instagram that really blew up, and they're like, let's do a full version of it. Like let's do a full, music video of it with green screen and like write a full arrangement for it. And that's how some of these collaborations form. It might be people that don't even know each other. One person duets the other person, and then it does so well that they end up getting to know each other through that. And then they're like, hey, this went really well. Let's do a full version of it. And that's how a lot of these connections are started. And it is very cool. And I also, I'm kind of on the periphery of that space because, like, I'm mainly in the opera world, right? That's my main thing. And then I have the bass gang, but I never, aside from the sterile covers, which was just me, I never really got into all that short form content. So a lot of these cool collaborators I'm meeting through the bass gang. or like through Bobby, who's worked with pretty much all of them. And so that's cool. I'm very grateful that I get to work with all these really big creators in some way, even if it's not me doing like one-on-one projects with them, because that's just not part of my priority right now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think, and then you also had the one with Jennifer, the Frozen cover, which was really good as well. So you've started interviews on your YouTube channel. What was the thought process behind that? Was that another thing that you wanted to add, or was right? Because you have a super full plate, generally speaking. I saw the first interview come out, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Is doing more.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah.
So I at the start of the pandemic, at the start, about a few months in, like a lot of people, I started a podcast, vocal art. Like say, it was originally called No Expectations because I didn't have any expectations for it, and I was just going to talk to random people. And then I was like, this would be cool if this could actually grow. I'll kind of funnel it down vocal arts because that's where my expertise lies, and that's who I have a lot of connections with, people in the vocal professional world. And then AVA, as soon as I got to AVA in person in Philadelphia, that opera training program, I was like, this is not going to be possible. I can't keep this up. So I pretty much just tossed it. Then because pretty much I would say this whole year, as my YouTube's gotten much bigger, I've been able to hire out all the video editing, and I've been able to hire someone to do essentially all the uploading and management of my media, which freed up a lot of time for me. And now because my channel and my brand have grown so much and I can reach out to much bigger profile people, I was like, okay, I have more time and I have much better ways to connect with people who there would be interest for an interview. Let me try to bring this back. So that was the whole thought process, because I did like doing it when I was doing it. And yeah, those two reasons, I was like, let's give this another shot and see what happens. And when you can bring Tim Faust on as your first guest, like
that's a good start.
I mean, that interview, it's an interview, and I think it has over 50,000 views. It's us, as he says, it's us grumbling at each other for 2 hours. just too low bases. So that was the thinking. And my biggest concern was like, will this be worth it financially?
Mm-hmm.
Like shooting long interviews, right? It's tough to get the money back for each one based on how much you think your time is worth, right?
Yeah.
But some of them definitely have been. The ones that really don't perform well, probably not. But at the same time, I also do it because I really like talking to these people. And I know that, like, no matter what the number is, whoever watches the videos really does enjoy them and, appreciates being able to hear a full conversation with, his or her favorite artist. But yeah, that was it. That was the whole thinking
Yeah.
there.
That makes sense. It's similar to what I've been doing, well, except without the specific expertise of like the vocal stuff. But yeah, it's the same. So when you started interviewing, I'm thinking back to my own experience. I learned like my first, I don't know, however many episodes were probably horrendous. I don't know, the questions were bad and all these other things. And it helps for you obviously to have the audio kind of, how to edit audio and make all that stuff right. But the interviewing itself, how have you been in terms of developing that as a skill? Um, did it come naturally? Were there things like after the first episode, maybe back in the pandemic, or even when you first restarted, you're like, oh, I wish I'd asked that question, or I didn't say that exactly right, or how's that? Because I've picked up myself that it definitely takes a certain it's not just the gift of gab, as some people say, even though it kind of is, but also kind of not.
Yeah, I would say that part, which I think is really important to being an interviewer, is being able to just kind of shoot the shit and
Yeah.
talk fluently. Um, I always get questions from patrons that I ask at the end, and I always have a long list of questions that I want to ask these artists, but only if there's like a pause in conversation. So what I do try to make it feel very organic while trying to get certain information out of someone. So if I have an artist coming up, I always want to hear about their background. and especially musical training, because it's so different. All these people that find all this success, their training is so different. Some people don't train formally at all. Some people go through like the full gambit of undergrad, master's, artist diploma, whatever, and have like extremely well formal training, you know? So that's always really interesting. And then from there, it's usually I just try to naturally get out as much good information as I can about what they do and their upcoming projects and their whole process, because people love hearing about process, and I'm always interested in it too. And some of the big artists, I'm interested in like their team, like Elizabeth on the charismatic voice, like absolutely enormous, has like a whole team. She has like all these assistants, and she has accountants and lawyers and like everything to cover all aspects of her empire that she's built, essentially. And so it's really cool to hear about that. When I was talking to Melinda, it was really cool to hear about her tour for prep. I mean, her prep for tour for prep. It is 6 a.m., isn't it? Her prep for tour. Like, one thing she does that I thought was so cool is to prepare herself to be performing and dancing and singing all at the same time. She will perform her songs while running on the treadmill, like every day. Like, while she's working on her fitness, she'll be working on her singing.
Imagine walking into the gym and you hear somebody singing while running. You'd be like, "What?"
I I can only assume it's at a home treadmill. I think she has a setup in her basement.
Probably. It's more fun to think the other one though.
Yeah. So that's my goal, is I try to use, because I do think probably just being around people all the time in the opera world and being on sports team, just being involved, like I can talk very fluently with people. So I definitely rely on that with my interviews, just being able to keep a conversation going and keep it interesting and crack a joke here and there. And then there is some kind of structure as far as the information I want to get out of somebody. But also, if we go down a tangent and we're both really passionate about it, I'm like, let's go all the way down this rabbit hole, and it'll just be a long interview, and that's fine.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the reasons why for the first time that we talked, it went so smoothly, because we have a very similar style. It was like we had never met, but to people that didn't know that, it seemed like we knew each other. I think I got that a couple times. We have one or two mutual friends. It's like, have you met him before? It's like, no.
Yeah, I think we do
No.
have a very similar style.
Yeah. Um, I don't even know what else I was gonna say. Oh, so the process part also, yeah, I think people are super interested in the process, and that's one of the things. Like, we talked about that the first time you were on. Um, have you? I guess you haven't really had enough time to have people on more than once, have you?
No, not yet. I will certainly bring Bobby back on. I'm probably going to do interviews with all of the guys involved in Bass Gang after all these huge projects come out. So Bobby, Marwan, Tommy, I've already had on as well.
Hmm.
And then Casper, our manager, I'm also going to bring on and talk to him,
Gotcha.
because he was the brains behind the whole thing. Like, he created the whole Kickstarter, everything involved with merch and the Kickstarter and tiers. He did all the organization. He is doing our entire. This is also cool. He's done an entire documentary for the trip. And it was going to be like 8 episodes, and he's debating whether to do episodes or a movie. So the whole time we're there, he's shooting behind the scenes content. He's doing like interviews with us, like some formal, some more informal, and he's going to turn that into an entire documentary called Low Notes, High Stakes. That's funny you mentioned stakes earlier.
Yeah, that's a great title though. That's
um,
really cool. So who was that his idea to do that in the first place?
totally.
That's really cool. Do you have a pending release date type
I
when people can expect that?
That one, I believe we're going to put out probably right at the start of the new year.
That's going to be
So
super cool.
this new EP, first one comes out September 22nd. It's a Friday, and then there'll be one each Friday until it's done. And then we have a Halloween release. And then we have one more song we're going to put out this year, probably in November, like late November. Um, and then I'm actually working on a song for us to do as like a winter release. We were thinking maybe a Christmas song as well, but at least a wintertime release. But this documentary will be like, okay, Like the EP's been out for like 6 weeks, 2 months. We've gotten to kind of see how well it did, how well it performed, how well, how people responded to it. And then for all the new fans, essentially, that we've acquired, release this documentary so people can see how it all happened, which is going to be
Yeah.
crazy. And that's like another cool thing where we were like, let's just go for it. Let's spend an extra, few $1,000s and be able to basically give Casper the ability to make this documentary, because it's going to be so cool for us. Like, never mind how that performs, being able to look back on this trip from like a different angle, and like you get to see yourself like shooting the music videos. It's going to be like I'm as excited for that to come out as I am for all the music videos. Like,
That's
no
so
joke.
that's so cool. That I think that's another thing that people have been doing more recently, even with like the more commercial things, like you see with Amazon and some of their documentaries for behind the scenes of like some of the big soccer teams in England and things like that. Like the access to behind the scenes is there, like it's never been. The curtains being pulled back on a lot of things. It's super cool because the amount of, not that people didn't understand the amount of work that goes into this stuff, but even the amount of work that goes into time, money, planning that goes into something like your project. Imagine you like pull the curtain back on like a Beyonce world tour or so, like something crazy. It's like the logistics and everything. It's like people. It's wild the amount of people that are running around with all sorts of different responsibilities and roles, and the amount of things that can go wrong that don't go wrong is is honestly crazy. So it's super cool that you guys did that as well. That's what I'm looking forward to that too. I didn't is that has that been have you guys publicized that yet? 'Cause I haven't seen it. I didn't
I'm trying to think what. I mean, our patrons definitely know it. Um, and I don't think I'm, hopefully, sorry, Casper, speaking out of line by telling people it's coming, because I don't think it. I think it's actually will be better if people are excited to,
Yeah.
if there's a hype around it, if there's like, oh my God, we love these music videos so much, and now we have to wait 2 months for the documentary. It's gonna be so cool,
Yeah. It'll be like
build
a
a hype around it.
Christmas present for everybody or something.
Bingo. That's how we should market it. Christmas
Yeah.
for everybody.
You should with the winter or Christmas song or whatever you guys are doing.
Yes, exactly.
Um, is this the first time you guys have considered a holiday type thing? Because there's a few acapella. Pentatonics, obviously the big one, but it feels like
They all do
most
holiday
big
stuff. Yeah.
groups, yeah, have a holiday kind of staple that they put out.
Our holiday special has been Halloween,
Yeah, for
because it
sure,
just because it just works for bass
it does.
so well. Like, for both Halloween releases we've had have been our most popular video to date. Like, no
Mhm.
question. So like the first Halloween we did together, which was the first video we actually released on the Bass Gang channel when we had decided, okay, that we're going to do more than one project together. That was Emperor's New Clothes,
Mhm.
Panic at the Disco. Super successful for us. Then the next Halloween was Hide and Seek with Lauren Paley, which is our most popular song ever. It has
So
like
good.
over 500,000 views now. Um, Raking in views totally not in the Halloween season, which is awesome. So we're about to bump it again, because that's coming up, and see if we can catch like a second wave essentially. And then we have another Halloween release coming out this year as well, which should do really well. It'll be back to green screen for that one. Um, we were planning to shoot it actually in the Czech Republic, but we needed Marwan there.
Mm,
We were going to do like a voice play style music video where we're all, kind of sitting around, and
yeah,
um,
that would have been
a
cool.
couple of cameras going around, but we'll just do green screen.
So what's next? So I want to go. What's next for you guys with the bass gang, and then how your opera stuff is going, and then at the end. So start thinking about it now. I saw on a podcast that the host has the guest ask a question to the next guest every time. So I want to start. I want to
Oh,
start. I want to start doing that. I meant to do it the last like couple times and I forgot. So I want to start doing it now because I feel like that's a really cool one because none of you guys are the same discipline, industry, anything at all. So I think it'll be really cool to see like how that works itself out. Um, but in any event, so what's next for you guys for the so we talked about the projects and stuff, but in terms of Next couple years, uh, more trips planning. What's the conversations like? You gonna try and kidnap Marwan out of Egypt, and hopefully the government doesn't kidnap him? Or what? Like, what's what's the conversations like? What's the big picture plans for you guys?
Yeah. So I've already talked about the projects. So the EP, Halloween, um, one more this year for sure, and then probably one early 2024, along with the documentary. Um, I'm sure we'll be pretty soon planning the fourth EP for summer 2024. We don't know if it'll be called May the Bass Be With You Volume 4 or if we'll switch to something out after we've done this third one. That's a conversation. We definitely will be trying to meet in person again for sure. Our goal is that this project will do so well that it will give us the ability to meet again, next year and every year. That'd be incredible, or more. If not, hopefully the year after next we can meet up again. We will be kidnapping Marwan. If we can't legally get him out, we'll be getting him out of Egypt, or we'll be filming in Egypt, one of the two. Those are the big plans for us. We're also thinking, if the group does continue to grow, well, we have a long way till we get to this point, but the conversation of going on tour could be in the mix, really depending on how these projects go. I think it'll give us a pretty good idea about how much growth potential we have. But for example, like the Wellerman, actually, we have a song with the Wellerman coming out tomorrow as we're talking now. So it'll be out by the time this episode comes out. It's called Santiana. It's a sea shanty with the bass gang, the Wellerman, and Allie the Piper, who's one of those famous, short form. She plays the bagpipes. She's amazing. But the Wellerman, like they have already done like small tours, especially around the UK, and they're bigger than the bass gang for sure right now, but like totally achievable for the bass gang. So I think if we can get that big or bigger, we can start talking about tour and doing live performance and kind of figuring out how that'll work, because our arrangements would be impossible to perform fully fleshed out live because
Yeah.
we're all singing like so many parts. It's way more than four voices that you hear in the headphones. So we'd have to figure out how to kind of I'm sure we'd have backing tracks, maybe bring on some extra people to sing some of the parts. And then some of the parts are so insane, like they're never meant to be reliably performed live. Like some of the really freakishly low stuff down around the bottom of the piano, that's tough to be consistent with. Or some of the really high stuff too. Like we sing the whole, our arrangements are insane. Like vocally the craziest arrangements anyone's ever done. That's like undisputed. So performing live, we'd have to figure out kind of what to do. Maybe bring on some people who can sing the higher parts reliably, and then just kind of alter some of the bass lines, because they'd be just as impressive singing, normal low bass stuff as opposed to like this completely freakish,
Yeah.
bottom of the piano stuff. So that's a lot of the things we're kind of talking about. Eventually performing live, trying to meet up every year. And as far as that, we're just going to try and keep releasing projects hopefully at least every couple months.
Yeah. That'll
Give me
be
a second.
sick.
I'm gonna close this shade
Yeah.
because this morning sun is coming
Yeah,
in
you're
here now.
good. You're good.
I love the morning sun. It's just like a big white ball on my head in this current setup.
Uh, those, yeah, the morning, good
Yeah,
times.
dude. I know. Six. What is it? 6:50?
Yeah,
6:45?
I've started to try to do that. Wake up at like 6:37 every morning after we moved to try and get into like a routine because it was great. We were up packing and then somebody else was moving into the old place, so we had to help them move in because all these other things. Yeah,
Dude,
so
the
I try to.
morning, I will preach the gospel of the morning routine. It is phenomenal. It always, unfortunately for me, gets knocked off course when we go into opera production because we have usually late rehearsals and late performances.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'd say anytime like before 7 would probably consider somewhat early. And it's just amazing. It's like kind of what the human body's meant to do. It's kind of meant to be like up with the sun, down with the
Mhm.
sun. It's the healthiest thing. But it's just amazing what you get done. So quick, anecdote here. When I came back from Europe, 9 time zone shifts, right? So I had a 33-hour day getting here. And then my body wanted to be up at an ungodly hour the next morning because it was already afternoon. So I was up at like 2:30 a.m. My first night back. Slept like 4.5 hours after traveling for 33. And I got up and it was like 2:30 a.m. And I was like, well, there's no point in trying to go back to sleep. My body is on European time right now. And after that, I kind of adjusted a little bit, but then I just kept waking up between like 4 and 5. And I swear I just got twice as much done each day. Never had like a crash of energy. And what I thought would happen is if I started working at 5 instead of 9, then my in time for that day would just be 4 hours earlier, essentially. But it wasn't the case. It was like I would get up at 5 and I could work and be productive until 5 or 6. So I'm getting like 12, 13-hour days in, no problem, like still feeling great, and then going to bed at like 8, which I'm still doing, and getting up at like 5. And it's just amazing, especially when I'm starting, now that we're in opera rehearsals, like it starts at 10, I think 10:30 is when it starts. So I'll have to like warm up and stuff before that. But if I'm up at 5 and opera rehearsal isn't until 10:30, that's like half a workday I can get done before that starts.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
it's amazing.
I would prefer to be up a little bit early, but like my soccer, so our practices are 9 to 10:30, and
Yeah.
sometimes we have 9 p.m. kickoffs. So
Damn,
getting
that's
home,
late.
yeah, it's either 7 or 9. It depends on field space because the county has all the travel clubs and the high schools and the all the other stuff. So, um,
So yeah,
so
7
like
a.m. for you. 7 a.m. for you is probably
yes, that's
realistic.
about the earliest I can get. Like so, last night, 9 p.m. kickoff, got the win. I got home at like 11:30, showered and got into bed by midnight ish.
Oh
And
wow.
so like that's
That's tough. That's
I'd
tough.
prefer to get a little bit more sleep than that, but like to maintain the routine, it's kind of I don't know. It's doable, it's doable.
Yeah.
But any earlier than 7 is kind of like,
Yeah.
eh.
I find
Um,
I'm fine. I'm pretty solid as long as I get more than 6. Like I can function if I get more than 6 hours of sleep.
yeah.
I can do one day if I get a lot less than that. I'll get through
Mhm.
one day and then it's trouble.
Yeah.
But ideally for me is like 7 and a
Yeah.
half hours if I can.
Like that was my Sunday night 9 p.m. kickoff again, and there was some like delays and the game went late, so I didn't get home till like midnight almost.
Oh man.
And then still the 7 because day job obviously you need to do that or you won't have income.
Yes. I also
um,
I find even if I sleep enough, if I go to bed really late and wake up late, I don't have good energy.
yes,
This
yeah,
this
I
is
agree.
this is a thing for me, especially last summer at Santa Fe Opera. Um, as an apprentice singer, we sang in a lot of the opera choruses, so we were performing in almost all the shows. And out there, because they wait till the sun goes down, it's an outdoor theater. It's stunning. It's an amazing, amazing opera house. But if we start a 3-hour show at 8,
Hmm.
then it's not over till 11, and then you got to get out of costume and drive home, and you're lucky to be asleep by 1.
Yeah,
So I'll go to sleep at 1 and be getting up at probably like 9, or because it's exhausting work, maybe sleeping a little longer. And I got adjusted to that time frame. So I was like, going to bed, falling asleep between 1 and 2, getting up between 9 and 10, plenty of sleep, but I just felt like a zombie.
yeah, yeah. I noticed that also. And like the month or two before we moved, I was getting on that sort of time frame just because I was training and coaching and playing late, and then it's like I need the sleep, so I'm trying to make the adjustment. But yeah, it's like you get up at night, it's the same number of hours of sleep, but you feel different. It's
Yeah.
really weird. It's really weird. I mean, like you said, the human body's meant to be up with the sun
Yeah.
and down
Do
with the
you
sun. So
do you watch Andrew Huberman at all? Do you know him?
yes, I do know him. I probably not every once in a while I'll catch an episode,
Yeah,
but
he has
I
some
go ahead.
I he has some great information on that. And I think it is a lot to do with timing, like with our relation to the sun, because that's how we've operated for so long before electricity, basically. So if you're up, kind of up with the sun, it's just more functional for the human body and the cortisol system. And you can work that in with how you time your caffeine and how you time your lighting as you're going to sleep. And all these things come together for like a very healthy routine. And if you're doing essentially, if you're doing things that weren't around a few hundred years ago around your sleep routine, it's gonna be less healthy for your body.
Yeah, like
It's pretty
phones and all this stuff.
phone,
So
like yeah, all like light, artificial light before you go to
mhm.
bed.
So I
Um,
completely ruined your morning by having you stare at a screen.
no, no, it's fine because like I'm essentially up when this, like when we started the episode, the sun was
Yeah.
just starting to come up. So no, this is totally fine. That's why I offered to do it this early.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Huberman's got a lot of good stuff. Another interesting thing that I've noticed is we've got all these conveniences, modern conveniences now, and there's so much of a push to be like, hey, maybe don't use that plastic or don't use that artificial light before bed or don't use that other thing or don't eat that food that's been processed by all the modern stuff. It's super interesting. It feels like um well, it's also tough to not do it because it's especially food is there the stuff that you would want to eat if you're really paying attention to it is so expensive and so hard to find that it's
Pretty much have to
like
cook for yourself, pretty much.
yeah, but even that like you gotta pay attention to like if you're cooking for yourself, for example, like sunflower oil or canola oil or any of these things. I think one of them was used to be used as like industrial grease, but I guess it's edible. Apparently, somebody decided that it was edible, and that's the spray that everybody uses to like for the pans. But
Yeah.
and so it's like little
Yeah,
things like that.
it's rather frightening. They have way better laws for food regulation in the EU. And I
Hmm.
always find I can go to the EU and I can eat anything, even if I would like consider it kind of garbagey. Like I would just go and get like a kebab or
Hmm.
something. And I feel great. My whole system feels great. And I feel like I have to eat such specific things in the US to get that same result.
Yeah.
It's shocking actually, and I've always wondered that, and I didn't realize that was the case. But I was like, okay, when I go to Italy and I am eating out at restaurants and I'm eating pizza and pasta and drinking wine, why do I feel so good?
Yeah.
If I were doing that here, if I was eating like Domino's and whatever, name your pasta, like if I was eating that all the time, I'd feel horrible
Yes.
if I was
Yeah.
doing it here. But I guess because of the regulations and how they use their ingredients over there, you can just crush that kind of food and feel great and not even put on weight.
Well, now I feel like I
It's
have to go.
yeah, dude, go to Italy and just devour food.
So I did hear that also about people with like gluten allergies or celiac disease that here they can't eat pasta, but over there it's fine.
That's
Maybe
interesting.
depending on the level of intolerance that you have that your system has to
Of
gluten.
course. Yeah,
But I heard that also, and I was like
man,
something needs to
I know.
change.
It's so weird because my diet is dialed in right now. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't feel any better now than I did like dicking around in the Czech Republic. Like even I mean we were some of these shoots, man, were almost like all night shoots
Hmm.
because we had to film at night and then they're complicated and the complications come up and your plan gets thrown off by hours because of a camera thing or a makeup thing or whatever. And we're like drinking energy drinks at like midnight, energy drinks and beer. We're shooting all night and we're sleeping into like the afternoon, getting up, eating kebabs. Felt great. It's like,
Yeah.
please explain that to me. How is that
If you
possible?
did that here, you would be
I think I
not
would
doing
die.
anything for 2 days. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. That's why it's so strange. And I know also we're coming to the end of the time, but I feel like we're on a roll. So if you need to go,
I can do another
just
few
cut it.
minutes. Yeah.
All right. It's so strange because like when I did my bachelor party, we cooked generally the people that were there are fairly healthy, so we cooked like chicken and stuff and grilled chicken and like we were pretty good. But then other vacations that I've been on, it's like after 2 days, I'm just like, oh, and
Yeah.
I feel like that is exactly what you guys were doing. And you're like,
Precisely.
nope, it's fine
Could I
here.
couldn't I could not have been less healthy in those situations.
Well, you could have been doing that here, and that would have been less
That
healthy.
would have been less healthy. That's true. My normal routine is not energy drinks at midnight.
No, definitely. All right. So I think we'll skip the opera stuff due to time. What is your question for actually, we'll just do that offline. Do you have any last nickels before we get out of here and you go to your singing opera and whatever else you got going on?
I wanted to leave you with something from an interview I heard recently with Chris Williamson, who maybe you know, great interviewer, and his interview with Alex Hormozy, his first one he did. And he was talking about the success of people in general. And he was saying that only 10% of people that start podcasts make more than 3 episodes, and only 10% of those people make more than 20. So only 1% of people that start podcasts make more than 20 episodes. So I wanted to give you a big salute because you have made so many episodes, and so you are way up in that 1% of podcast creators.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That was another thing that kind of inspired me to keep pumping, like to get back into it and to keep pumping it out. I was like, oh damn, can be in the top 1% of podcasters pretty quickly, like all-time podcasters, right? Everyone who has at some point started a podcast. So that's pretty cool.
That makes sense. I think you'll be episode 131.
That's wild.
131. That's crazy.
So I'd say you're probably in another 10% of that 1% who make it over 100 episodes.
Well, if those people who are listening to the podcast want to subscribe, that would be great. So I can keep doing this.
I will tell them. I'll tell them all to subscribe.
All right. Sounds good. Stay tuned for all Peter stuff and all the Bass Gang stuff. Links will be in the description. I'm sure probably if you're here, you already know who he is, but that's all right. If you don't, go check him out. The stairwell stuff is super cool. The I don't even remember the song, the Halloween one with Lauren Paley.
Hide and seek, yeah.
Hide and seek, bonkers. I've listened to it like 50 times. I scare my wife with it because the first low note and like the little creepy noises at the beginning.
Yes.
I'll just put it on the speaker and click play when she's like, "What is that?" It's like, "Oh, sorry, it was it's Peter again." Yeah. All right. Great conversation again. We made it through. We made it through the morning conversation.
We did
without any super big hiccups except for the sun.
Well, in another year we can check back in and see what's changed.
100%. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Later, everyone. Peace.